Hello and welcome to today's Coffee with Craig. It is a fine Friday morning. It is also Veterans Day. We want to make sure to say a special thank you to each and every individual out there who has put their life on the line to make sure that we have a country that is free and that we are able to live and operate in liberty. It's one of the reasons why we do what we do here, because we understand how important our individual liberties are, because, well, they're paid for in the blood of patriots and the sacrifices that you make. So once again, thank you, and know that we very, very much appreciate and honor you. Before we get into our topic today, I wanted to let you guys know. Yesterday we talked a little bit in the Battle of the Day. We talked about a new bill that's been introduced. Senator Dianne Feinstein has introduced a bill that will basically ban just about any semi-automatic centerfire, or actually, let me clear, centerfire or any semi-automatic rifle in an AR or an AK platform. It's probably the most expansive firearms ban that we've seen. And it's vitally important that you help us in making sure that that bill goes absolutely nowhere. So we'll make sure to provide a link in the thread here. Please go support us as we support you in Washington, D.C. And you'll also have a chance to win this Daniel Defense M4 V11. As you can see, it looks like a really cool gun. I've never shot it before, so I don't know, but I know the Daniel Defense makes some real quality products. So I have no doubt that is a quality firearm. And once again, just for helping us help you, you can also have an opportunity to potentially win this firearm. Now, so let's get back to what we were talking about. So, we're talking about sacrifice, and we're talking about veterans, and really the way they put their lives on the line. And there's another group of folks that actually put their lives on the line for us every day in these United States. They are the ones who go after the bad guys. They're the ones who make sure that when someone commits a crime, their job is to make sure that they're caught and that they pay the piper, that they face the consequences. Law enforcement, it's hard. I imagine it's hard to be a police officer these days because you're under so much criticism. You've got the news media, you've got politicians, you've got Hollywood, you've got all of these folks out there trying to tell you how to do your job. And your main concern is that you just want to make sure, first and foremost, that you make it home alive at night. And so we get that. We do. The challenge here has to do with individuals and non-law enforcement and our right to keep and bear arms. We've come to find that poll after poll has shown that rank and file law enforcement officers support the individual right to keep and bear arms. You in law enforcement recognize you can't be everywhere. So individuals, we citizens, are most often our own first responders. So the right to keep and bear arms is vitally important because you can't be there all the time. Now, we realize once again that rank and file law enforcement officers get that. The challenge we have is it seems like oftentimes the agencies that hire them, usually big city police departments, as well as the unions that tend to represent them, represent you, they don't necessarily take the same tact. When it comes to issues relating to the Second Amendment and individual right to keep and bear arms, oftentimes those organizations are nowhere to be found. And in some cases, they're actually standing in opposition to the individual's right to keep and bear arms. In many cases, it's because they've gone to whoever's authoring the bill, and they've sought to get law enforcement or retired law enforcement removed from being, or help to get them exempted from the particular measure. And then once that happens, they either remove their opposition or they then turn around and they support the measure. And that's difficult because in many cases, most of the pieces of legislation that are in place right now, I'll only speak for California, but many of those pieces of legislation would not be in existence if law enforcement had stood up and said, no, this is a bad idea. We will not support this. And I say that because I wanted to bring up something that's taking place in Los Angeles, where the LAPD union has basically taken the position they want to ban suppressors. Now, mind you, right now suppressors are not necessarily banned, but they are highly regulated. They come with a ton of paperwork. They are highly taxed. Access to them is very difficult, and anyway, access to them is very difficult, and in some places it is in fact illegal. The challenge that I have here is that law enforcement agencies this year, in fact, put forth legislation and sponsored legislation in order for them to be able to gain access to be able to utilize suppressors. And in many cases, the arguments that they make as to the rationale for wanting to have access to and be able to utilize suppressors is the exact same arguments that you see when it comes to people supporting the Hearing Protection Act or the Shush Act. The same exact arguments. But yet and still, these unions believe that they deserve special rights. And you know we don't believe in this. We don't believe in special rights for special people. That's why they're called rights. All right? Special rights are what's called privileges. And I'm not going to say that law enforcement doesn't deserve some special privileges, but now we're talking about rights. And when it comes to rights, the right to keep and bear arms, dealing with the firearms and the accessories there that help to facilitate that, I'm sorry, now we're talking about getting into rights. And when you start advocating that you want a right that you don't want other people to have, well, then I have a problem with that. I have a problem when you have unions that are partnering with groups like, the San Francisco 49ers in order to advocate for the ban of constitutionally protected firearms and firearms parts and accessories. I mean, you're engaging in a PR campaign to limit the rights of citizens. Folks, and then once again, and this is to anyone out there who either knows a law enforcement officer or to law enforcement officers. Here's the deal. I know you have our backs. I know you have our backs as individual citizens because you see and you face the worst of the worst. You know what's out there. You know what's out there, right? And you know that we need to be able and be prepared in order to be able to protect ourselves from what is out there. But y'all got to talk to the people who are talking for you. Y'all need to say something. I know it's a lot of work. I know you got your own issues that you have to deal with them, really dealing with, your benefits and your job, your working conditions. I get all that. But you need to speak up for the rest of us. Because the people who lead you, man, they're selling us up the river. Time and time again, whether it's in the media, whether it's in state legislatures, or in Congress, they are selling us out. They're selling you out. They are not representing a position that you have. And I know you guys probably get tired of me saying this. I know you get tired of hearing me say this. That's why I keep saying, I know. LEOs out there, I know you have our backs. I know you do. Talk to the folks who represent you. Tell them, no, you know what? We're not going to have you selling my brothers and sisters, my fellow citizens, my neighbors, my family members. I'm not going to have you throwing them under the bus. All rights, all of the time, for all of the people. That's what civil rights are. All rights, all of the time, for all of the people. Not special privileges for special people. That's not the way it's supposed to work, at least not in these United States. Anyway, folks, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. I very much appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you share these videos with friends. Let's talk about this conversation. This is a good conversation to have. Imagine if we can get law enforcement entities, law enforcement unions, and some of these police departments to actually stand up for the rights of individual citizens. We might be able to make sure that some of us here, who are kind of behind enemy lines, actually get our rights back. Folks, it's going to take us all in this fight for civil rights because we got to use them or we're going to lose them. We'll talk to you later. Have a good weekend.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.